Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday for another episode of The Nonprofit Show. We're really excited to venture into the conversation of project management today. And we would not be having this discussion without the support of our sponsors. So we want to thank all of them so much for being with us. As any of you who are regulars to our show know, many of these sponsors have been with us from day one. And day one was generally defined by me for a 2-week commitment. Don't worry, we'll be done in 2 weeks. And here we are, 300 episodes plus. So we want to say thank you to these. Everybody, almost everybody that could figure out how to dust off that crystal ball, we're saying the same thing. Again, I'm Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. Well, my co-host, Jarrett Ransom, the nonprofit nerd herself, CEO of the Raven Group, is actually on a plane going somewhere fabulous. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. She'll rejoin us later in the week. But more importantly, we have 3 guests on today from Project Management for Change. Harry Zulkower, hello. He's waving away. Beth May, hello.
Hello.
And then Kendall Lott. Did I say your name correctly, Kendall Lott?
Yeah, with the silent T, it was helpful. Hello.
I love it. Well, you guys are really, really interesting because you're like the total top of the food chain when it comes to brain cells and intelligence. And we have been able to get you here with us to talk about project management. And so, Beth, give us the whole thing. What is Project Management for Change?
We are an all-volunteer organization. We bring project managers together with nonprofits to help them better execute on their missions so that they can deliver social change.
Okay, well, that is a pretty heavy lift. I mean, I'm stunned by that. So let's start from the beginning, because when I think of project management, I think of it almost like the purview of construction, and so talk to us about what that actually can mean.
Sure. I think it's probable that the reason why you think about construction is because construction is a very concrete, pun intended, example where you are building something physical, right? But project management is useful for numerous types of projects, and they can be creating something that's virtual or just creating an effect or a result. So to answer the question, what is project management? First, I have to talk about projects. And projects are used to create specific outcomes. Usually, those outcomes are tied to an organization's strategic goals. And those outcomes can be products, services, or capabilities that are new, or they can be improvements to existing products, services, or capabilities. So we work with nonprofits to provide project management support to help them better execute their missions and create social change.
Wow. So I've got to ask you this question.
Oh, you know what? I talked about projects and I forgot to talk about project management. So, and the punchline is that project management is the means by which we apply limited resources. If resources were unlimited, project management would not be as important, especially for nonprofits. Project management is the means by which we apply limited resources, so that's people, technology, time, and money, to achieve that outcome that we want. So that's what project management is.
Okay, but now let me ask you this. Let's say you're working with a cultural organization, and then next to it that you're working with, let's say, an animal shelter, and then you're working with maybe a medical foundation. Are the tenets of project management going to allow you to navigate the processes, or do you need to have specialized project managers that are familiar with medical technology, cultural institutions, shelter services, whatever the case may be?
I'll give my short answer and then I'll open it up for Harry and Kendall. Absolutely, the project management tenets apply to each of those cases equally as well. And a project manager who also has domain expertise, that's even better. Harry, Kendall, would you like
Yeah,
to?
I was going to say, if you don't mind me butting in here, this is a little bit to the CBD program we'll talk about in a little bit, but Julie, a very good question. I think if you're a project manager, it's almost like being a liberal in liberal arts. You can apply it to just about any field. It's like you said, it's the basic tenets that kind of cross over all disciplines and different areas. So for myself personally, I've been in various different disciplines, and so my project management experience carries over to various, healthcare or education, et cetera.
Right. So talk about, digging a little bit deeper, and you're let's say you're a nonprofit, you've got this big project coming forward, and I always believe in that line, you don't know what you don't know. And so the stress of that, what does a project management system do to impact that nonprofit? I mean, can you walk us through a little bit more of what that relationship might look like and what the actual tasks could be? I mean, Harry, do you want to talk about this, or is this going to be something that Kendall talked about?
Well, I was going to talk about it a little bit more generally, but I think, both Harry and Beth have set it up very clearly that, there is a relationship in almost any project. So I think like with any professional service, there's a general set of tenets where people can be effective and helpful. And then the more, as Beth said, domain knowledge you have, the better in many cases, depending on the nature of the problem. So you can think of it as like counseling services or something, right? Where maybe somebody trained in a field is helpful, but then for specific types of things, more domain knowledge is helpful. Same thing in things like systems engineering and engineering, right? There's some general principles, and then there's domain knowledge that's helpful. The question really gets down to what is the organization, in this case a nonprofit, needing, and what caused us to start PM4Change. Those of us that had kicked off the nonprofit PM4Change to support nonprofits was the basic underlying deep kind of tenet that we had seen in my own excursion through the nonprofit world and association world. I had realized that, like all organizations, as Beth had said, right, you're wrestling with a lack of enough money, right? Because ultimately money is constrained. So economics fundamentally operates on is a scarcity deal, and the science of scarcity. And what we realized though with nonprofits, it's not really just money, right? From donors or from fees or things. It's this whole ability to get what you have with your staff, to get it done on time, to be able to focus on the right things and be able to deliver to that end result. Because the project is delivering something that's like a temporary endeavor, which is why it would work for any number of things, right? Whatever you have a start and a finish, you could think of that as the beginning of understanding there's a project. So what we found was in nonprofits, not enough money is one thing, but it also ends up being not enough time, not enough staff alignment, not enough skills on the staff for a specific donor requested type of program or some part of the mission, right? So in my mind, working with associations and nonprofits, there was this thing I called not enoughness. You live in a world of scarcity, a world of just not enough.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is project managers, for whatever field they're in, their lens on the world, and they traditionally have kind of happened into project management because they came out of engineering or sciences or management in another field, right? And then they got asked to do a temporary endeavor that had to be done at a certain time, right?
Right.
So what happens is we train in the techniques of managing scarcity. It is very specifically, how do you get something done on behalf of a stakeholder, let's just say an executive, the organizational powers that have to be done by a certain time, right? At a certain level of quality and complete what they really wanted within the budget. And if any of those things are not happening, you got to tell people. And that kind of tenet of, we got to talk about, we have scope, schedule, and quality, and we got to be ready to communicate it. And we've got to make sure that our stakeholders are in line and that we stay on top of our budget is what project management is all about. So how could you not need it? And so that's how we wanted to get into it. So we can get into some of the steps, but I'm going to tell you one of the first steps that I also ran into one other experience with nonprofits on top of it. So all you nonprofits listen out there, project managers are not your checklist people. So many times I'm like, we make big bucks to do this stuff sometimes, right? And I don't mean being the one who builds the entire large building. I mean, project management happens in so many layers in so many places. But it's not about making checklists and making sure people check it off. That is an outcome of some projects at some parts of tasking, but it's actually a strategic issue. And it ties to what will we get done here in this organization? And executives getting to say, if you're an executive of a nonprofit, you're going to love this. I need someone to point a finger to and say, figure it out and make sure it's delivered in September, by January, by the time of our next gala, by the time of our next annual symposium day or annual nonprofit day or whatever you're working towards. So I think getting into the steps then is what project managers are able to lead through. But it starts with what are we trying to achieve and by when? And what resources do I have? Because we can't miss that. And that's what we train in.
Okay, so I feel badly that I invited you all on this show because I suspect that your email and your phones are going to blow up because
Beth, give them your email.
Oh my God, yeah. I think I'm like, holy cow, I need to be talking to you people myself. I'm fascinated by this. Okay, wow. So we got to ask then the question about continuous value delivery. Like, what does that mean? And how does that factor into this whole concept of project management?
Yeah, so I can speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Harry.
So this is very exciting. So we have a signature event that is what we call the Day of Service, which is originally was on Martin Luther King's birthday, where we got nonprofits together with volunteer pro bono project managers. And the thought was to expand beyond that and to have this relationship to be able to provide services year round to nonprofits rather than in one day. So this is a really, really exciting program. And what I really want to press upon, I guess, this group is there are a lot of people who are professional project managers out there that we're hearing who really want to help nonprofits pro bono. It's almost like, hey, free, we're offering all this free service. And I think what we're trying to do is get the message out to nonprofits that we are out there, we're volunteers, we're professionals, we can help. And so we have engaged, several nonprofits, but there is this energy out there where we can, basically we have an 8-phase program, starting from doing a needs assessment to a project kickoff, to do an implementation, delivery, all the way up to project closure. And what we typically have is a short-term project, but that short-term project can lead to either other projects or continuation of the first project. So I guess what I wanted to impress upon the nonprofit community is that this service is now available. We're ready. We've got people that are raring to go. We've got people that specialize in grant writing and fundraising, board development, all of this going on. And we're actually having an open house coming up, if I may plug that.
Yeah.
For nonprofits coming up on Monday, April 26th. Okay. We have a WebEx that we're going to basically discuss in more depth what the continuous value delivery program and how valuable it can be to a nonprofit organization. So that's coming up, and we'd love to have your group be on that open house, and we can delve more deeply into how they can benefit.
Okay, so you said, as we call it, the F word in the nonprofit sector, fundraising. So you could actually navigate or find talent that could navigate more intellectual endeavors, more financial endeavors, not just physical site specific
Yeah.
projects?
Yeah, so it's a lot of what we do, and I think Kendall's mentioned this, is a lot of what we can offer is strategic planning and, tactical planning as well as strategic. So I think, we have a lot to offer as project managers in that regard. Plus, what we do is we have a team, which is a little different than other types of programs, where we just don't have one project manager, we have a team. So if there's a subject matter expert that we need to pull in with like grant writing or a certain area, then we'll pull that person into our team. So, yeah.
And let me offer a clarification in there too, I think, just to make sure that we all can really see the benefit in this. There's the role of project management and how it can help, and project managers and how they can help in the nonprofit space, which we believe, one of the other underlying things was that it's typically a skill that nonprofits don't think to buy or can't afford, because in a sense, it's mission agnostic, right? It's getting support in your management space, but to get things done, right? So that's why we were trying to offer it. So we've covered what is project management, what are project managers, and why we decided we thought this would be helpful in your market. Where Beth and Harry are talking to now is like when you ask for continuous delivery and how we can help. That's the role of our nonprofit called PM, Project Management, PM4Change, where broadly speaking, we're saying we're a clearinghouse. We're trying to build the clearinghouse of the supply of project managers who want to help with the nonprofits that are in a position to be helped, where there's enough clarification of their need that we can begin to work together. So we had the one major event that Beth has run, at least probably 4 of the 7 times it's happened, including a massively successful virtual event. And then Harry has taken on the rolling wave of continuing to support some nonprofits past a day of scoping or strategic planning. And that's the continuous value aspects of it, right? And I think we're, in the sense, our nonprofit is a clearinghouse. We're kind of preaching the word of project management, but we're also trying to make sure that there's something that, getting to your point about actual use. And I think that's where Beth is really trying to lean in with Harry now about the different ways we can actually get into the actual effective use of project management as it's applied to the project managers. And then I think you can also, Beth has a lot of experience with observing a question you had asked earlier. So how do project managers feel about this? I mean, they're being lined up to do this, so there has to be some value to them too, right? It turns out there's reasons.
Yeah. Well, I'm really interested in that because, first of all, this is something that I don't ever recall. I mean, Harry is the person that we originally started chatting with, and it got me to thinking about, I don't know of another nonprofit that's actually used this type of strategic leadership other than when they were physically building something. And, that's kind of saying something considering the number of nonprofits that are out there. And I think that we're talking about a lot of the same things, and we understand that we do have to manage projects and everything, but bringing in an actual professional, educated person that understands how to manage strategy, holy cow, that's a huge issue.
Here might be the trigger for your audience to think about, do I have a project?
Yes.
Do you have something that has resources?
Yeah.
That needs to be done in a certain time, and that needs to get started pretty clearly, where everyone goes like, yeah, that's going now. Okay, yeah. So if you have kind of like it got started, it's got to get done by a date or in another event, some sort of future event, and there is some money associated with it. And I'd go one step farther, probably, in terms of some real reality. There's probably some multiple stakeholders. Like, not only are there people working on it, and not only do I care, but there might be a donor, a funder, an oversight group, another nonprofit, a community. There's some other like complexity like that, just a little complexity. If you can check the box, multiple stakeholder, probably some money, it's got to get going and it needs to get done, you got a project.
I love it. And I love that you framed that up. Because
if there's a risk of failure, you got a project.
Yeah. And there's a risk of failure. Okay, wow. So you've got my head spinning, because I can see this engagement piece for so many nonprofits. And this question just popped into my head as we kind of started talking. I would imagine, as a nonprofit, once you embrace this methodology and this process, it's like we say in my family, mama gotta have it. You probably are going to want to replicate this approach for other projects. And I'm wondering, is this something that when you bring in a professional and you can observe kind of what they're doing, that it helps you to even figure out future strategies?
Thank you, Beth.
I think it's really important that I'm a big advocate of the old saying, don't give the man the fish, feed him to fish. Mm-hmm. And so the way Harry has built the continuous value delivery program, it's not we listen to you and we go off and do something and produce it for you. We collaborate with you, explain what we're doing and why we're doing it. And we're developing these relationships and we're coaching. And that's as important as the project we're helping you carry out.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So we don't have that much time left, but I want to get into kind of like what the profile of your project managers might be, how they're impacted, because this is a big deal, given that you're taking time, energy, and effort towards something that you all get paid pretty well for, if you don't mind me saying, to extract that talent and place it into a nonprofit that might not even be in your community, right? I mean, your folks are working throughout the country.
Throughout the world, around the world. So skills-based, just at a high level, skills-based volunteering is a very powerful concept. As a volunteer, you can learn or refine skills that you don't get to use normally on your everyday paid job. And that can be really satisfying, and it can also help your resume. In addition, you expand your professional network. Our PM volunteers enjoy working with nonprofits and giving back to their communities, and often experience more appreciation doing the PM4Change work than they typically experience at their normal paid jobs. In fact, we have at least 2 volunteers, PM volunteers, who have ended up on the board of directors for the nonprofits that they supported. That's how much they were appreciated. And finally, those of us who are certified, we can use our volunteer hours to earn professional development units, which we need to maintain our certification. Personally, as a PM volunteer on the executive team at PM4Change, I love the force multiplier effect. I love that we help nonprofits around the world and then they help their communities. So we're taking local action and achieving global impact. And that's why we like to say we're changing the world one project at a time.
I love it. I love it. Kendall, you looked like you had something to add.
Well, she's spot on there. And I was going to, my thought is there's a bit of a story that you might like from the association or nonprofit perspective, which is where part of the impetus of this came from. Your audience may appreciate this, was I was running a large organization of project managers doing professional development in project management. And we wanted to have the membership connect, right? I mean, some of your people may be worried about membership sometimes. So how do you keep your members rolling? And I was sitting and thinking, what is not being asked of project managers? What's not being done? Well, it turns out project management is a huge untapped resource of professionals who would love to help in their community. And what was happening is we were being invited to do work in the community that is along some of the many events people have, fun runs and bicycle rides and fixing things and, you know, engaging in community activities. And what Beth just said is so magical, the idea of the skills-based volunteering. I got exposed to that through other nonprofits, Points of Light, for example, that said, why aren't you using these things? Well, my natural thought and many of my colleagues was, oh, you mean doctors and lawyers do pro bono work, right? And I was like, no. Project managers could do it and everyone needs it, I think. Let me ask. And I just tapped the well and there was project managers everywhere saying, you know, whether they only want to give 4 or 6 hours once a year at a day of service, or whether they want to join in a structured pattern of reuse or continuing growth. You just said that some had gone to the boards of their nonprofits. It turns out there's a lot of people that while they don't work in nonprofits or associations, would love to serve their communities or to use their skills and talents with others. And that was just nobody had asked or struck. First, I don't think anyone had asked, or not commonly asked. And secondly, and this is what Harry and Beth bring forward, no one had set the mechanism for that engagement. And that's what we wanted to be able to do. So that's the call to action. We try and find the project managers, but frankly, there's a lot that want something, and to be able to do something, and then connect that with nonprofits such as you represent, who might have the demand.
So what does that look like? I mean, how many projects is PM4Change able to, commit to a year, and what does that look like? I mean, I know you all are in the East. Are you embracing projects throughout you said you were global, but do you tend to have regional focuses, or what does that structure look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think right now it's kind of a natural growth out from the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, but it's right now this program is like skyrocketing. And the funny thing is that we've got all these volunteers that are ready to go, and we're looking for nonprofits right now. So to your question, right now, I think we've got about 5 or 6 projects that are in simultaneously going on, but that can very easily multiply very, very fast. So we've got the capability, and we're just now asking the community to come visit us. So
we've had hundreds of project managers involved. If you counted all of them over time in the different cities and around the world, but across the United States. Okay,
well, be careful what you wish for, my friends, because we have our live broadcast, we have our archive. So these episodes go up on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, our Vimeo channel, our archive piece that we have with YouTube. And it's just amazing to hear this talent level. And, this is a thing I hear morning, noon, and night from nonprofits. We need help with strategy. We need help with strategy, and nonprofit leaders are great at marshaling passion, talent, commitment, and even money, even though these are things that are tight, but they're so good at it. But the strategy piece, I believe, is the Achilles heel. I mean, and we just hear this time and time again. Wow. Well, you guys have just made my head explode. I want to put everybody's information up on the screen so that you can get to PM4Change.org because there's just a lot. We've got several questions. Where do we find more information, and how do we sign up? We would like to reach out to PM4Change to get on board in New Jersey. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And we have more and more of those types of questions coming in. So PM4Change.org, check them out. You've had the ability to get in front of the minds of greatness today with Harry Zulkower. Harry, thank you for reaching out to us, by the way, because I think you're that one that really did, connect, I think, with me personally. And then we were able to put this together finally. Beth May, thank you so much. I love your insight and the things that you had to say. And Kendall Lott.
No, it's a silent T.
Kendall, I loved your the way you're able to frame this up for us and give us some perspective, because it's just a really cool thing that your sector would see the value in joining with the nonprofit sector. As we all know, I mean, we have so many nonprofits doing amazing things that make this world and this nation of ours better. And so what a magical partnership to have your folks bring their talents. Again, I'm Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. Jarrett Ransom will be back with us shortly. She's actually traveling today, and we'll hear more about that when she gets here. Hint, look for the little sombrero that we've placed over her head in tomorrow's episode, and that might give you an indication of what she is up to. We want to remind everybody we have our book club. Join us on the exploration of some of new ideas, new ways to get things done. You might even find out, you can get some books about project management. We might have to find out if we can get some of those types of things on our book club. Again, thank you to our sponsors. This has been one of those things that I hope that has helped you help us. And so we are so very excited that our sponsors would allow us to have this conversation. Beth, Harry, Kendall, what a great way to start our week.
You're welcome.
I love it. Hey, it's been amazing. As we like to end every episode, we want to remind everyone to stay well so you can do well. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.